from Dow Medical College and a PhD and MPhil in physiology. So the topics which I'll be starting with you as far as the FCPS Part 1 Basic Sciences course is concerned is the renal system. So this topic has been divided into 3 main headings, which will be covered in 4 lectures. And these are general functions of kidney, glomerular filtration and its regulation, and renal tubular reabsorption and secretion. The first 2 of them will be taken today by me from 11 to, let's say, 1 p.m. And the second topic, which is renal tubular reabsorption and secretion, will be taken again by me on Friday. And the scheduled time is between 11:30 to 1:30. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So in the first 2 headings, which I'll try to cover in next 2 hours or so, I'll be trying the objectives of these 2 lectures today are I'll be trying to relate the functional anatomy of kidney with its basic major functions. And I'll be trying to relate the physiological mechanisms involved in glomerular filtration and the basic processes which regulates this glomerular filtration. So starting with this diagram, this is a cut section of the kidney, and you can see, and we hope that by your previous knowledge, you know that there are about 1 million nephrons in each kidney. So there are about 2 million nephrons on an average in a normal healthy adult in both of the kidneys. As the age progresses, the number of the neurons which are functional goes on decreasing in the old age normally. But if you talk about a normal healthy adult person, let's say between the age of 18 to 35, 40, and if everything is going right, the kidney is divided into 2 main portions. The outermost portion, which is renal cortex, and the inner portion, which is renal medulla. If you remember by your previous knowledge that the renal tubules are being divided from proximal convoluted tubule till the collecting tubule and the collecting ducts. And the renal cortex primarily contains the proximal convoluted tubule and the early part of the descending limb of loop of Henle. The late part of the descending limb of loop of Henle, the ascending limb of loop of Henle, and early part of the distal convoluted tubule primarily are present in the renal medulla. Each of the nephron, once it ends in the collecting tubules, all of the collecting tubules combine to form what are called as minor calyces and major calyces. These minor calyces and major calyces open in the renal pelvis, which give rise to the ureter, and ureter continues into the urinary bladder. So in general, therefore, the type of the nephrons physiologically are divided into cortical type of nephrons and juxtamedullary nephrons, which are closer to the medullary part of each kidney. The difference between the cortical nephrons and the medullary nephrons are 2. And these are the major differences between 2. And these are, I hope by now you know from your undergraduate knowledge and your internship knowledge that kidney is the only organ which has got 2 set of capillaries. The first one, which is called as glomerular capillaries, which arises from the renal artery branches. And the main function of the glomerular capillaries is during the process of glomerular filtration. The second set of capillaries, which are present in the kidney, and they are connected with the efferent arteriole, are called as peritubular capillaries. Peri means surrounding. They surround the tubules. The peritubular capillaries are the ones which will collect all of the things which are reabsorbed at the end of the glomerular filtration and take these 2 to the systemic circulation. So these 2 set of capillaries, the glomerular capillaries involved in the process of glomerular filtration, and peritubular capillaries which are involved in the process of renal tubular reabsorption. they are present in all of the cortical nephrons. However, the loop of Henle and the peritubular capillaries don't go into the most deepest part of the medulla, where the peritubular capillaries are called as vasa recta. These vasa recta, their length is more than the peritubular capillaries of the cortical nephrons. Similarly, the length of the loop of Henle is much larger in the juxtamedullary nephrons. And the reason behind the more length of loop of the vasa recta and the loop of Henle in the juxtamedullary nephrons as compared to the cortical nephrons is they tend to go to the most deepest part of the juxtamedullary nephrons, even in the parts which are down the maximum of the innermost part of the medullary nephrons. And they are involved in collecting and reabsorbing the salts and water, especially during the conditions of dehydration, and the process by which they act, the vasa recta and loop of Henle, becomes more important in juxtamedullary nephrons to reabsorb more of the water and more of the salts during the processes of dehydration. The mechanism for this one, which makes the urine more concentrated, is called as counter current of mechanism. And I hope you remember this was introduced to you in your undergraduate classes. So starting with the story, the renal artery enters the kidney, divides into interlobular arteries and interlobular arteries, which ultimately give rise to afferent arterioles. The afferent arterioles forms what are called as a network of glomerular capillaries. On the other end of the glomerular capillaries are the efferent arterioles, which, as I mentioned earlier, in turn are connected with the peritubular capillaries. The afferent arteriole and the glomerular capillaries are involved in the first process, which we will be discussing today, called as glomerular filtration, which is the first process to form the urine. Just beneath the glomerular capillaries is a Bowman's capsule, which surrounds the glomerular capillaries. The Bowman's capsule has got a lumen, which is called as Bowman's space. The Bowman's space continues into the lumen of the proximal convoluted tubule. The proximal convoluted tubule continues into the descending limb of loop of Henle, which is thicker relatively. The descending limb of loop of Henle continues into the ascending limb of loop of Henle, and the initial portion is thin. The late portion of the ascending limb of loop of Henle is relatively thicker. The ascending limb of loop of Henle, the thick portion, continues into early distal convoluted tubule, which in turn continues into late distal convoluted tubule. And each of the late distal convoluted tubule opens in turn into the collecting tubules. Many of the collecting tubules combine each other and they empty into the collecting duct. If the collecting duct is part of the cortical nephrons, it will be termed as cortical collecting duct. And if it is part of the juxtamedullary nephrons, it will be termed as medullary collecting duct. So these are the various portions of a nephron, which is the basic functional unit of the kidney. Are you with me? Is there any question before I proceed?
सर ये collecting tubule और collecting duct का एक दफा फिर से बताइएगा.
So the collecting tubule is part of the nephron itself. The distal convoluted tubule each empties into collecting tubule. Many of the collecting tubule combines, and they, let's say 50 of them combine and open in one collecting duct. And many of the collecting duct then will be ultimately forming the renal pelvis. So therefore, the number of the collecting ducts are lesser than the number of the collecting tubules. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So after this very basic functional anatomy of the nephron, which is the functional unit of the kidney, I'll start with the first main topic, which are the general functions of the kidney. So the general functions of the kidney, The first and the most important one is the removal of the waste products. And most of these waste products are nitrogenous in nature. No other body organ, including liver or skin or the GIT, removes in so much quantity of nitrogenous waste products as the kidney is. And these nitrogenous waste products include urea, uric acid, ammonia, which is excreted in the form of ammonium, creatinine, which is derived from muscle metabolism, urobilinogen, which is an end product of the bile metabolism, metabolites of each metabolic cycles, which are, if in an excess, have to be removed through kidney or through the GIT. And many of the drugs, including the antibiotics, NSAIDs, etc., these are the ones, if they become accumulated more than their normal plasma concentration, they are going to be toxic within hours to days, and their removal is critical. And this is carried out by the kidney, and this is the most important physiological function of kidney. The second function which the kidney performs, and is again a very important one, is the reabsorption of water. The main place from which the reabsorption of water occurs in terms of quantity is the proximal convoluted tubule. About 80 to 85% of total water reabsorption occurs from the proximal convoluted tubule. 100% of the glucose and amino acids which enters through the plasma into the kidney are reabsorbed at the proximal convoluted tubule. All of the vitamins, especially the water-soluble vitamins, are reabsorbed by the kidney. Sodium is being reabsorbed by the kidney, and there are many mechanisms for reabsorption of water, which include simple diffusion through the sodium channels, primary active transport of sodium with potassium, and this occurs at the basolateral membrane of the renal tubular cell, which I'll be talking in my second lecture on Friday. The basolateral membrane is the membrane of renal tubular cell which faces towards the peritubular capillary, and it is provided by sodium potassium ATPase pump. So primary active transport of sodium through sodium potassium ATPase pump at the basolateral membrane. The third mechanism by which the sodium can be reabsorbed is secondary active co-transport of sodium with glucose and with amino acids. And the last mechanism for sodium reabsorption, again at most of the places, including the proximal convoluted tubule, is the secondary active counter transport of sodium with hydrogen. So for reabsorption of sodium, the nature has provided more than one mechanism. So almost 80 to again 90% of the sodium reabsorption occurs primarily in the proximal convoluted tubule. Potassium we know is important in many processes, both sodium and potassium. So for example, the establishment of the resting membrane potential, action potential, conduction of the nerve impulse, these all involve sodium and potassium. And therefore, to maintain the normal concentration of the potassium in the intracellular fluid, which is the main place where it is more in concentration in the resting condition, the kidney plays an important role in reabsorption of potassium. Then is calcium, and we know calcium is involved in a number of processes physiologically in the body. So for example, during the muscle contraction, during the neuromuscular junction transmission, during the coagulation process, during the sliding mechanism of contraction in all three types of muscles, during the nerve impulse conduction. So therefore, again, during the bone formation and its mineralization. So therefore, again, calcium is an essential ion to be reabsorbed, and primarily this reabsorption occurs in proximal convoluted tubule and the loop of Henle in the kidney. Magnesium, which is again one of the main cation in the intracellular fluid, has to be reabsorbed. And we know that magnesium is involved in many of the metabolic processes. Chloride, which is again involved in many of the processes, including the maintenance of acid-base balance when the chloride shift occurs in contrast to bicarbonate. So therefore, chloride has to be more in concentration normally in the extracellular fluid. Therefore, reabsorption of chloride is again an important process, and this reabsorption occurs care of the kidney. And finally, bicarbonate, which is a very, very important buffer involved in most of the body cells. And if you do remember carbonic anhydrase, where water combines with carbon dioxide to form carbonic acid, which soon dissociates under the presence of carbonic anhydrase into bicarbonate and chloride. This cellular reaction occurs in almost all of the cells, including the nervous system, the cardiac cells, the red blood cells, the respiratory cells, as well as the muscle cells. So therefore, again, for maintenance of the acid-base balance, the plasma concentration of bicarbonate is critical to be maintained at a constant level. And therefore, the reabsorption of bicarbonate, again, is one of the main function of the kidney. And most of the bicarbonate is reabsorbed again in the proximal convoluted tubule. Are you with me till now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Then there are regulatory functions of the kidney. And these includes the regulation of balances of water, electrolytes, and acid-base balance. Water, we know, is involved in many of the metabolic pathways. The reabsorption, about 80 to 90% of water occurs primarily in the proximal convoluted tubule and the descending limb of loop of Henle. Ascending limb of loop of Henle, both thin portion as well as thick portions are impermeable to water. The late distal convoluted tubule and the collecting tubule can reabsorb water only if the antidiuretic hormone secreted by the posterior pituitary gland is present, which increases the formation of the aquaporin channels in the distal convoluted tubule, late and collecting tubule. So this regulation of water, especially during the hypovolemic conditions, is one of the critical functions of the kidney. Electrolytes, as I mentioned, sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, chloride, their regulation is important to maintain the quantity as well as the function of both extracellular fluid and the intracellular fluid. And finally, acid-base buffer. Now, kidney is one of the organ which is being provided by more than one buffer system. And the first of them, which is present elsewhere also, is the bicarbonate buffer system, which is present in the kidney as well as in other organs. But two important buffer systems, which are primarily present only in the kidney, and these include the ammonia buffer system and the phosphate buffer system, are the ones which increases the functioning of the kidney as an efficient organ to maintain the acid-base balance. The next function of the kidney in terms of regulation is through renin-angiotensin-aldosterone mechanism, which is one of the main mechanisms involved in long-term regulation of arterial blood pressure. We know as soon as the plasma volume goes on decreasing or the extracellular fluid volume goes on decreasing, or there is relatively decrease in the arterial blood pressure, the renin, which is an enzyme, this becomes stimulated in the kidney. This is present in the juxtaglomerular cells. This is in the inactive form, which is prorenin. As soon as the hypotension or hypovolemia occurs, prorenin is converted into renin. Renin stimulates the conversion of angiotensin or GIN into angiotensin 1. Angiotensin 1 is secreted from the kidney into the systemic circulation. Why? Because the enzyme which converts angiotensin 1 into angiotensin 2 is present only in the pulmonary endothelial cells. So therefore, angiotensin 1 goes through the systemic circulation to the lungs, where it is converted into angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 can increase the blood pressure by two mechanisms. One, it, as the name suggests, angiotensin, it is a very, very powerful systemic vasoconstrictor. So by vasoconstricting the vessels all over the body, it increases the total peripheral resistance. And if total peripheral resistance occurs, increases, that leads to the long-term increase in the arterial blood pressure. The second thing which angiotensin 2 do, it stimulates the release of aldosterone from the adrenal cortex. Aldosterone comes in the circulation, acts on the late distal convoluted tubule and collecting tubule, and stimulates the sodium-potassium ATPase pump, which is the primary active transport. So the aldosterone increases the sodium chloride reabsorption and secondarily water reabsorption, and also increases the hydrogen secretion. And this primarily occurs in the late distal convoluted tubule and the collecting tubule. So if the sodium and chloride and water are reabsorbed more in quantity in presence of aldosterone, it is going to increase the plasma volume, which increases the arterial blood pressure long term. And this renin-angiotensin-aldosterone mechanism, as the name suggests, it is not the acute or the short-term control of arterial blood pressure, but it regulates the arterial blood pressure in days to weeks to months. The last thing which the kidney performs, and as I indicated in my previous talk a couple of minutes ago, a countercurrent mechanism, which is especially important whenever there is hypovolemia and dehydration in the presence of urea and sodium, which both are osmotically active substances, especially in the juxtamedullary nephrons, through the loop of Henle and the vasa recta. It stimulates the reabsorption of water through osmosis, and therefore kidney is involved in maintenance and regulation of body fluid osmolality. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Kidney is one of the organ which sometimes, when needed, acts as an endocrine organ. And renin, I have already mentioned. Angiotensin, I have already mentioned. The next one is erythropoietin. If you remember again your undergraduate syllabus of physiology and anatomy, the first of the organ which starts manufacturing the red blood cells is in the intraembryonic life is yolk sac. The hematopoiesis, and this occurs in the first trimester. The hematopoiesis shifts in the second trimester and the early third trimester into the spleen and liver. And then the bones, starting the clavicle, and then the long bone starts manufacturing the red blood cells, platelets, and the WBCs. The erythropoiesis continues in the long bones after birth. The erythropoiesis not only is involving multiplication of cells, but also differentiation of the less active cells into more active cells. So conversion of pro-erythroblast into erythroblast. And there are different stages, if you remember, of the erythroblast is under the influence of this hormone, which is primarily secreted in the embryonic life in kidney, which is the erythropoietin. However, if the time and the needs are there, liver can also form erythropoietin in adult life. So erythropoietin, which is actively secreted by the kidney, promotes erythropoiesis. And therefore, this is one of the function of kidney to be involved in hematopoiesis. And the last one, this one, 125 dihydroxy cholecalciferol, which is also called as calcitriol, is the most active form of vitamin D3. And as the name suggests, most active एक ही होगी. So most active form is converted from 25 dihydroxy cholecalciferol into 125 dihydrocalciferol. The enzyme present for this conversion is present only, and I say only, in kidney. Therefore, the most active form of the vitamin D can be formed primarily in the kidney. And this is vitamin D3. We know that vitamin D3 is involved in a number of functions which involve mineralization of the bone and teeth. The vitamin D3 is also involved in the formation of the bone matrix. We also know that nowadays the researchers have suggested the involvement of vitamin D in many of the immune functions also. So therefore, remembering all of these functions, kidney becomes one of the active production site of vitamin D3. Are you with me?
यस सर, सिर्फ एक बात कि सेकंड ट्राइमेस्टर में स्प्लीन किडनी दोनों में होगी हेमेटोपोइसिस?
No, I haven't said that kidney will be a hematopoietic factor. I said kidney will be producing erythropoietin, which is involved in erythropoiesis. Erythropoiesis occurs only in liver and spleen. Kidney is not involved in formation. It only secretes the hormone required for formation. Kidney में cells नहीं बनते बेटा. Kidney सिर्फ erythropoietin provide करती है उन cells की differentiation के लिए. Cells का anatomically बनना second trimester में सिर्फ liver और spleen में है. Kidney बजाते खुद cells नहीं बनाती. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So kidney anatomically is not involved. It only provides a hormone which promotes the differentiation. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The last function, which is a secondary function of kidney, is involved only during extreme of starvation. We know that many of the amino acids can be the source of glucose and carbohydrate through the process of gluconeogenesis. And kidney is one of the organ which at some time of starvation, when it becomes extreme, can be involved in conversion of amino acids through gluconeogenesis into carbohydrate. This is one of the secondary function of the kidney. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So we know that many of the amino acids come through plasma into kidney. All of them have to be reabsorbed. No single amino acid is allowed to become excreted in urine. Once it is to be reabsorbed, if there is a starvation, and I am talking only starvation, not normal circumstances, kidney can convert some of the amino acids into the carbohydrate during extremes of starvation. Let's say a person is at a hilly place, is stuck up in snow for about a week or so. You don't have any supply of proteins in the food. So what the body will try is, whatever the amino acids are circulating in the blood comes to the kidney. And in this is extreme condition where the proteins are not available in regular diet, and there is starvation. This is one of example. Other examples can be. So kidney converts some of the amino acids into the glucose through the process of gluconeogenesis. And this is a additional function of kidney, which is not normally occurring, but kidney can be a source of carbohydrate during starvation. Is it clear now?
Excuse me, sir.
जी बेटा.
सर किडनी जब में ये वाला फंक्शन परफॉर्म करती है ग्लूकोनियोजेनेसिस का, तो ये अंडर इफेक्ट ऑफ एनी हार्मोन करती है या?
No, it don't need a hormone. It has the capability, it has got the enzymes to convert the amino acids into carbohydrate. It don't need any hormone.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
And therefore I said it that it is an additional itself function of kidney. It don't require any organ for this function, but that don't occur in the normal physiological circumstances. Starvation is not a normal condition. Beta.
Excuse me, sir. So
Yeah, but-
what triggers it to start converting it? Like if it doesn't do it physiologically, what, like if there's starvation, what triggers it to start the gluconeogenesis?
Bete, the common sense is, do you know the main energy supply of most of our organs, especially brain, is in the normal circumstances only through carbohydrates?
Yes, sir.
Brain, I hope you know, each of the neuron in normal circumstances cannot utilize anything else to generate ATP other than glucose. Same
Yes,
is the
sir, I
case
know
for
that.
RBCs.
What I'm asking is
बेटा
that-
इसका जवाब इसी में है.
okay.
इसका जवाब इसी में है. मेरी बात तो सुनो. RBCs are the only cells which circulate to every organ, including lungs, including muscles, everywhere. And RBCs has got the main supply of the energy through anaerobic metabolism, although it can convert hexose to form ATP. So whether you talk about hexose or glucose, they both are carbohydrate. So if carbohydrate either in the brain, and I'm talking about glucose primarily, or in the RBCs or in the circulation goes down, the condition is called as, if the glucose levels goes down
Hypoglycemia.
anywhere, either
Hypoglycemia.
intracellularly or extracellularly, we call it,
Hypoglycemia.
and hypoglycemia is the strongest stimulant for kidney to convert the amino acids into carbohydrate. So
Thank you so much,
hypoglycemia is the
sir.
primary stimulant for kidney to start gluconeogenesis.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. Any question? So if somebody asks you now, can you enlist 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the main functions of the kidney? These are,
Yes, sir.
can you name
Removal of
without
waste
looking
products.
precise?
Removal of waste
Yes,
products.
enlist the functions, don't describe them. 1, 2,
So
3.
waste product-
अगर मैं कहूं इन सब में से सारे फंक्शंस क्रिटिकल हैं, एक हटा दो, किडनी बेकार है, फायदा ही नहीं है उस किडनी में.
At renin, angiotensin, aldosterone, we can.
ना बेटा ना.
Removal
Waste
of
products.
waste product.
This is the
nitrogen
reason
product.
as soon as
Removal.
kidney is
Removal
failing,
of waste products.
and this is the reason when kidney is failing, we are not bothered about rest of the functions.
Reabsorption.
Is to remove the waste product through hemodialysis. So the rest of the functions, मैंने सवाल आपसे कहा, choose one best में सारे सही होते हैं, एक बेस्ट होता है, बेस्ट एक ही होता है.
Removal of waste product.
क्रिकेट की टीम में 11 प्लेयर होते हैं, कप्तान एक ही होता है. सो देयरफॉर इसको क्लिनिकली सोचो, अगर इन सारे फंक्शंस में से एक ऐसा हो जो किडनी ना परफॉर्म करवाए, तो बाकी सब हम फंक्शन बेकार हैं.
Waste product removal.
So therefore the main एक ही होता है बेटा, main function of the kidney is removal of waste products, especially किस तरह की waste products? Nitrogenous waste.
Nitrogenous waste products.
अमोनिया लिवर भी एक्सक्रीट कर सकता है, लेकिन जितनी तादाद में किडनी कर सकता है एंड साइमल्टेनियसली एसिड बेस बैलेंस को अफेक्ट करेगा, इतना लिवर नहीं करता. क्रिएटिनिन कहीं और से नहीं इतना एक्सक्रीट होता, यूरिक एसिड कहीं से एक्सक्रीट नहीं होता इतना. यूरिया और अमोनिया लिवर भी कर सकते हैं, लेकिन क्रिएटिनिन और यूरिक एसिड लिवर नहीं कर सकते इतना एक्सक्रीट. Similarly, there are most of the drugs, I'm not saying all, most of the drugs are, after they act, they are cleared by the kidney, not by the liver. Most. Similarly, if you see the second function, reabsorption, क्या कोई organ ऐसा आपने सुना है जहां water इतने तादाद में reabsorb होता हो? GIT से water reabsorb होता है, only about 20% of the total quantity reabsorbed. ग्लूकोज और अमाइनो एसिड बॉडी से रीअब्सॉर्ब जितनी तादाद में किडनी कराता है 100% हो ही नहीं सकते कहीं से. एंड देयर आर मल्टीपल मैकेनिज्म्स फॉर रीअब्सॉर्प्शन ऑफ ग्लूकोज एंड अमाइनो एसिड्स व्हिच इंक्लूड फैसिलिटेटेड डिफ्यूजन एंड सेकेंडरी एक्टिव को ट्रांसपोर्ट विद सोडियम. हम बात करेंगे अगले लेक्चर में. एंड देन रेगुलेशन में क्या क्या गिनवाओगे जरा बताओ. आर्टीरियल ब्लड प्रेशर. अच्छा, आर्टीरियल ब्लड प्रेशर तो बॉडी के बहुत सारे और पार्ट्स कर रहे हैं, बट किडनी से एक चीज रेगुलेशन हटा दो, किडनी फेलियर में, किडनी फेलियर से नहीं मरेगा, उस चीज से मर जाएगा, विच इज acid base balance. The person goes
Ammonia
into
buffer system.
metabolic acidosis if the renal failure is there. बेटा हर नॉर्मल फंक्शन को रिलेट करो क्लिनिकल और अप्लाइड पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से. सो फंक्शन सारे हैं, ऐसे फंक्शन को पहले मेंशन करो जिसके एब्सेंस होने की वजह से किडनी फेलियर में द डेथ के ना कर. एरिथ्रोपोइटिन अगर नहीं भी मिला किडनी से तो लिवर दे देगा. आर्टीरियल ब्लड प्रेशर लॉन्ग टर्म रेगुलेट नहीं हुआ तो कहीं ना कहीं शॉर्ट टर्म तो हो रहा होगा, लेकिन अगर बफर्स के तौर पे किडनी ने अमोनिया को, सल्फेट्स को, फॉस्फेट्स को रिमूव नहीं किया, within hours the acute renal failure leads into metabolic acidosis and persons don't die of the heart failure but die due to the acidosis. I hope you know acidosis is toxic within minutes for brain. Okay, then अगर मैं आपसे कहूं ये जो एक्टिव प्रोडक्शन है इसमें मेन क्या चीज है जो कहीं और नहीं हो रहा, सिर्फ किडनी में हो रहा है?
Vitamin D3.
The vitamin D3 की conversion.
One and angiotensin 1. Angiotensin 1 कहीं और बना? कहीं पढ़ा आज तक आपने angiotensin 1? अच्छा, अगर
No, sir.
angiotensin 1 ना हो तो I hope you have heard about the group of drugs which are called as angiotensin converting enzyme.
Enzyme inhibitor.
And these are one of the main drugs for arterial blood pressure regulation, for treating hypertension, and they act usually with diuretics, with some other drugs. So again, इसको अगर clinically applied करके बात करो, अगर angiotensin 1 ही नहीं होता तो angiotensin converting enzyme की नौबत कहाँ आती? ड्रग ही अवेलेबल नहीं होती. तो नॉर्मल फंक्शंस को क्लिनिकली और अप्लाइड पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से रिलेट करके पढ़ोगे तो याद रहेगा. आर यू विद मी? So that ends my first part of the lecture, which was relating the normal basic functional anatomy with the functions. And I have described in detail, I have tried to describe in detail the major functions of the kidney. Are you with me? Are there any questions?
No, sir.
सर ये
No,
थोड़ा
sir. It's
सर काउंटर करंट मैकेनिज्म थोड़ा क्लियर कर दें.
बेटे, what do you know about counter current mechanism before I clear it? आपको क्या पता है इसके बारे में? What is it physiologically and when it becomes important? I'll not go into detail, ये मेरा topic नहीं है, लेकिन I can give you a hint. आपको इसके बारे में by your undergraduate knowledge, what do you know about it?
सर अगेंस्ट कंसंट्रेशन इसकी जो एब्जॉर्प्शन होगी.
बेटे, I hope you know that all those substances which are called as osmotically active substances, they promote water reabsorption through the process of osmosis. By the way, water का reabsorption का main process क्या है किडनी में? Normal circumstances में, जब normovolemia, hyper या hypovolemia ना हो, how is water reabsorbed in the kidney or the GIT?
सर एक्टिव
I
एब्जॉर्प्शन.
just name the process. मैं
Diffusion.
sir, osmosis के through osmosis.
नहीं बेटा, ना. If there is normovolemia, सब कुछ ठीक चल रहा है, तो water कैसे reabsorb होता है GIT और अच्छा कैसे का मतलब?
Diffusion.
Which type of diffusion?
Simple.
And for simple diffusion, has the nature provided specialized channels for water? These are specialized channels
Yes.
that are present through and through. एक border से शुरू होती है, luminal borders. These channels are called as aquaporins. Distal convoluted tubule में इनकी formation ADH बढ़ा देता है. So therefore, either you talk about proximal convoluted tubule, descending limb of loop of Henle, early distal convoluted tubule, late distal convoluted tubule, or collecting tubule. The primary process, primary एक ही होता है बेटा. The primary process for water reabsorption is simple diffusion through aquaporins. ये तो हो गया नॉर्मल सर्कमस्टांसेस। अगर डिहाइड्रेशन हो जाए, हाइपोवोलीमिया हो जाए, तो क्या बॉडी वाटर को ज्यादा एक्सक्रीट करे या ज्यादा रीएब्सॉर्ब करा के रिटेन करे?
सर अब
Other
reabsorb
reabsorb
करेगा।
करवा
इसके लिए
retain
अल्लाह
करें।
ताला ने they have provided specialized nephrons which are called as juxtamedullary nephrons. और मैंने शुरू में आपको कहा इनके लूप की लेंथ is more, they go deep to the deepest portion of the kidney of the medulla, और वहां पे peritubular capillaries भी they follow the loop of Henle and they are called as vasa recta. अच्छा, अब ये जब नीचे तक जाते हैं तो what they do is in the medulla there is provided this specialized mechanism in the presence of urea, which is osmotically active. Urea is impermeable in the medullary collecting tubules. अगर वो impermeable है तो क्या यूरिया reabsorb हो पाएगा?
No.
No,
अगर
sir.
वो reabsorb नहीं हो पाएगा तो वो कहां पे मौजूद होगा? ट्यूबुलर सेल में ना, वो सिक्रीट भी नहीं हो रहा, वो भी नहीं। जब वो ट्यूबुलर सेल में मौजूद है और वो ऑस्मोटिकली एक्टिव है तो वो ल्यूमन से किस चीज को खींचेगा?
Water.
And
Water.
this is called as counter current mechanism. Do you get my answer? So the counter current mechanism is especially active in which type of nephrons? Cortical or juxtamedullary?
Juxtamedullary.
And they need osmotically active substance to reabsorb water, not now by through simple diffusion, but by osmosis. And this mechanism is counter current mechanism.
Counter current mechanism. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. Is it clear?
Excuse me for interruption. डॉक्टर तनवीर का माइक्रोफोन थोड़ा सा दूर कर दें।
मैं दूर हो जाऊं या माइक को दूर कर दूं?
माइक्रोफोन दूर कर दें, कुछ आवाज आ रही है।
अगर आपका ऑडिटोरियम होता और बच्चे होते तो आप यकीन करें मेरा इतना वॉल्यूम है, मुझे जिंदगी में माइक की जरूरत नहीं पड़ी।
अच्छा।
I have been teaching physiology since last 27 years.
माशाल्लाह।
I never went to clinical sciences. तो मैं और मेरे दो इंस्टीट्यूट थे आगा खान, मुझे आज तक माइक की अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह अगर स्टूडेंट मौजूद तो जरूरत नहीं पड़ती, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह। बहुत से बच्चे कहते हैं तस्वीर बंद कर दें आपकी आवाज आती है, रात को भी आती। ठीक, this is it clear beta? I hope I have explained the normal.
Yes sir, very well, very well.
Okay,
Thank you.
so
Sir.
we can have 5 minutes break before I start my actual second topic, which will be a more conceptual topic, which is called as glomerular filtration. ठीक है जी?
Okay, sir.
5 minutes break. अंदाजा नहीं हो रहा।
हेलो, आवाज आ रही है? देखें, क्लियर है ना? वो बंद है? Hello, everybody. सब clear है, no problem.
Yes, ma'am. Clear है.
Okay, कोई problem हो तो जरूर chat box में डाल दें. You can mail me also.
और इसीलिए जो भी चीज आप खासतौर पे आजकल के दौर में जब तक उसको क्लिनिकल इम्पोर्टेंस देके नहीं पढ़ाएंगे, अप्लाई नहीं पढ़ाएंगे, इसीलिए सिनेरियोस की और एडिटिव इम्पोर्टेंस है। क्या बात है, क्या बात। मैं जब आया था खान में 2005 में मैंने ज्वाइन किया है और मैं वहाँ यहाँ जॉब के लिए नहीं आया था, प्राइमरीली पीएचडी के लिए आया था। मैं ऑलरेडी एसोसिएट प्रोफेसर था अहमदाबाद यूनिवर्सिटी में, 10 साल से वहाँ पढ़ा रहा था। तो मैं जब यहाँ आया तो उस जमाने में खुर्शीद साहब थे डीन। तो खुर्शीद साहब ने मुझको पहली बात ये कही कि बेटे जो डॉ मेडिकल कॉलेज से तुमने पढ़ा था और जो अब के बच्चे हैं उनमें फर्क यही है कि पहले बच्चे किताब से पढ़ते थे, नोट्स बनाते थे और 6 महीने बाद भूल जाते थे कैसे आगे। अब अगर उनको तुम क्लिनिकल एस्पेक्ट से पढ़ाओगे, कुछ वीडियोस, कोई ग्राफ, कोई रियल क्लिनिकल सिनेरियो से रिलेट कराओगे, ईसीजी पढ़ा रहे हैं उसको, तो उसको जिंदगी भर याद रहेगा, वरना याद नहीं रहेगा। कॉन्सेप्ट क्लियर? शुरू करें भाई? ओके, क्या लोग ओके। Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me back?
Yes, sir.
Can we start the second topic?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, sure.
So, beta, as I said earlier, the basic thing which the kidney do is the formation of urine. And the three processes which are involved in the formation of urine are glomerular filtration, which is a non-selective selective process. Situation, kidney receives, I hope by now, you know, about 1100 ml of blood per minute in the resting condition. This average 1100 ml of blood which the kidney receives is about 21 to 22% of total cardiac output. This blood enters the renal artery. Renal artery divides into, as I said, interlobar and interlobular arteries. The interlobular artery ultimately forms what is called as renal afferent arteriole. This afferent arteriole then forms glomerular capillaries, which is involved in first of the process, which I'll be discussing in next 50 minutes or so, which is called as glomerular filtration. This entrance of the 1100 ml of the blood into the glomerular capillaries, where it undergoes ultrafiltration, is a non-selective process. Almost every of the thing which is present in the plasma, except plasma proteins, inclusive of albumin. I again repeat, almost everything which enters the plasma in this 1100 ml of blood per minute is undergoing ultrafiltration except proteins and albumin, which is the most numerous protein in the plasma. So therefore, glomerular filtration is not a selective process. It allows almost everything to be become ultrafiltrate and enters the Bowman space. However, once the ultrafiltrate, after the first process, which I'll be talking in detail, glomerular filtration, enters the renal tubule, in the proximal tubule till cortical collecting tubule, there will be selective reabsorption of the nutrients which are essentially required and selective secretion of the substances which are not required. So the last two processes, which is renal tubular reabsorption and secretion, are selective. That is, kidney selectively reabsorbs. Selective वही होते हैं जिसको चुन लिया जाता है, जिसकी requirement essential है. So selectively reabsorbed, और जिनको नहीं रहना, selectively secreting and excreting. In contrast to it, the glomerular filtration is not selective. Why? Because almost everything which enters the kidney except proteins and albumin, which is our protein, are filtered. So composition basically of glomerular filtrate and plasma is the same except proteins and albumin. Are you with me till now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what happens is the blood enters the afferent arteriole, undergoes glomerular filtration in the glomerular capillaries. The ultrafiltrate enters the proximal convoluted tubule, and once it reaches the end of the proximal convoluted tubule, most of the substances are reabsorbed and some are secreted. Those which are reabsorbed in peritubular capillaries. These peritubular capillaries are connected with the efferent arteriole. The efferent arteriole then goes to systemic circulation. So whatever the things which are reabsorbed in the proximal convoluted tubule, and similarly all other parts of the nephron, they are reabsorbed from the tubular cell to the tubular interstitium, and from the tubular interstitium into the peritubular capillaries. And peritubular capillaries take them through the renal vein to the systemic circulation. Are you with me? So this is the route of the reabsorption. So therefore, if somebody asks you, what are the two main things which are involved in glomerular filtration as far as glomerular apparatus is concerned, are one, afferent arteriole, and two, the glomerular capillaries. Efferent arteriole and peritubular capillaries will be involved in not glomerular filtration, but in tubular reabsorption of the substances. Are you with me?
सर एक दफा रिपीट कीजिएगा.
Bete, plasma enters afferent arteriole about 1000 to 1200 ml per minute, undergoes glomerular filtration, enters proximal tubule or descending limb of loop of Fanley or ascending limb of loop of Fanley or distal convoluted tubule or collecting tubule. Once it is reabsorbed from the tubular lumen, it enters the tubular cell. From the tubular cell, it moves into the interstitial space, tubular interstitium. From the tubular interstitium, it enters peritubular capillaries, which are connected with the renal vein. In this way, the direction of the reabsorption is from the tubular lumen to the tubular cell, to the peritubular interstitial space, to the peritubular capillary for reabsorption, and vice versa for secretion. So therefore, if I ask you here in this diagram, what are the structures involved in glomerular filtration? The answer is afferent arteriole and glomerular capillaries. And if I ask you what are the structure involved in reabsorption or secretion, the answer is tubules, efferent arteriole, and peritubular capillaries. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So filtration, reabsorption, secretion. Anything which fails to be reabsorbed or is secreted then becomes the part of the urine, which is then excreted through the urinary bladder and urethra. This is a cut section at the level of the proximal convoluted tubule. This is the lumen of the proximal convoluted tubule. This is afferent arteriole, this is efferent arteriole. If you consider the different layers, the afferent arteriole, the outermost layer of the afferent arteriole will be endothelial cell layer. The outermost layer of the glomerular capillaries will be glomerular capillary epithelial cell layer. Then which I will show in the next diagram. Then will glomerular capillary basement membrane layer. Now, where the afferent arteriole is in close proximation to efferent arteriole is a specialized structure which is called as juxtaglomerular apparatus. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
This juxtaglomerular apparatus has got two things. One, juxtaglomerular cells which secrete dash, which promotes conversion of angiotensinogen into angiotensin 1. What should come in dash?
Renin.
Okay. The second structure is macula densa. This macula densa is placed near where the distal convoluted tubule is in close proximation with afferent arteriole. The function of efferent macula densa is whenever a tubular fluid, whenever a tubular fluid containing less of sodium reaches near macula densa, this macula densa cells becomes sensory cells. They detect hyponatremia present in the tubular fluid. As soon as they detect less quantity of sodium reaching the macula densa, they send signals for mechanisms to simulate increase in the reabsorption of sodium and secondarily to water. ये मैं इसलिए बता रहा हूं, I'll be repeating it at the end of my today's lecture when I'll be talking about auto regulation. Is this clear? Is the role of JG cells and macula densa clear? जी बेटा, should I Move
Yes,
on.
yes, sir.
Now, if you cut a transverse section through glomerular capillaries, this is how it looks like. The outermost layer is called as capillary endothelial cell layer. And this is provided by holes, which are called as fenestrae. These fenestrae are permeable only to small solutes, not large size particles. The second layer is called as glomerular capillary cell layer, epithelial cell layer. This glomerular capillary epithelial cell layer is thrown into foot-like projections, which are called as podocytes. And this glomerular epithelial cell layer has got specialized characteristic. It has got proteoglycans in it. The proteoglycans present in the glomerular capillary epithelial cell layer are negatively charged. They repel proteins and negatively charged substances, including the red blood cells whose surface is relatively negatively charged. So therefore, fenestrae don't allow large particles to pass through them. And fenestrae are part of what layer? Glomerular capillary endothelial cell layer. The second layer beneath it is called as glomerular capillary epithelial cell layer. Pehli wali thi endothelial cell layer. Epithelial cell layer has got what characteristic? It possesses proteoglycans. Proteoglycans are negatively charged. They repel proteins, albumin, and RBCs. The glomerular capillary epithelial cell layer, so as to increase the surface area, is thrown into small projections called as foot processes or podocytes. Are you with me till now?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Glomerular capillary, ji beta.
Can you repeat the podocyte?
Glomerular epithelial cell layer has got projections which are called as podocytes or foot processes, and the function of podocyte is to increase the surface area for glomerular filtration. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then there is another provision which is called as filtration pores. These filtration pores, also called as slit pores, their size is about 8 to 10 nanometer in diameter, or 80 to 100 angstrom in size. So lumen of the filtration pore, उनके hole का size कितना है? 8 to 10 nanometer या 80 to 100 angstrom. Any particle which is more than 10 is not going to pass through slit pores. These slit pores again have property, they are negatively charged on their outer surface. And why they are negatively charged? They have got a layer which is called as sialoproteins. These sialoproteins resembles proteoglycans, and they provide slit pores negative charge. So because of the size of the slit pores, kitna hai size? And because of the sialoproteins, which are proteoglycan-like on the surface of slit pores, they repel negatively charged substances. So I want you to remember a couple of things, and this all is called as renal filtration barrier, which includes glomerular capillary endothelial cell layer having fenestra. As I said, these fenestra, ye holes nazar aa rahe hain aapko fenestra, they are permeable only to small protein molecules and peptides. Then beneath the glomerular capillary endothelial cell layer is glomerular capillary basement membrane cell layer, which is called as basal lamina, have got proteoglycans, repels plasma proteins and RBCs, is permeable to water and small solute molecules. And the last one, which is adjacent, to Bowman's capsule, is called as this one, the Bowman's capsular membrane epithelial cell layer. This glomerular capillary epithelial cell layer, also called as Bowman's capsular membrane epithelial cell layer, because it is adjacent to Bowman's capsule. This has got foot-like processes. ये दिए हुए हैं इस diagram में दिखाए हुए. These foot-like processes, they increases the surface area for glomerular filtration. It between two foot processes is a gap which is called as filtration slit. क्या size है? बार बार repeat कर रहा हूं बेटा. 8 to 10 nanometer or 80 to 100 angstrom. Any particle, whatever size, whatever charge, अगर उसका size 10 nanometer से ज्यादा है, भले positively charged भी हो, is not allowed to pass through filtration slit. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, and these three layers, that is glomerular capillary endothelial cell layer, fenestrine, glomerular capillary basement cell layer or basal lamina having proteoglycans, and Bowman's capsular membrane epithelial cell layer having foot processes, having glycosyloproteins and filtration slits. They all form what is called as filtration barrier, glomerular filtration barrier. This is very, very important. Is it clear before I move on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And all of the knowledge which I am trying to give you here comes from the basic books of the physiology, which includes Guyton, Genong, and Best and Taylor, which is a postgraduate book. And the diagrams will be available in all textbooks. Okay. So, one which you have to remember before I proceed on to explain the process and regulation of glomerular filtration is the filtration barrier. The second thing which I want you to be very clear are 4 pressures which are present in the glomerular capillaries, inside them or outside them. And these include 1, glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure. This will be the pressure present in the lumen of the glomerular capillary and will be due to plasma flow in the lumen of the glomerular capillary. And this is the pressure which promotes glomerular filtration. More is the rate of the blood flow, renal plasma flow, the rate and the pressure, more will be the glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure. And this pressure will push all of the plasma through the filtration barrier to undergo glomerular filtration and then form the glomerular filtrate which enters the Bowman's space. The second pressure which is present inside the glomerular capillary is due to the presence of proteins. अच्छा ये सबको पता होगा अब तक जहां proteins होते हैं, they try to attract the solute and water towards themselves, thus hindering the reabsorption. So अगर protein glomerular capillary के अंदर हो तो वो inhibit करेंगे glomerular filtration को, वो जाने नहीं देंगे plasma को into the Bowman's space. So the glomerular capillary plasma colloid osmotic pressure is a pressure which will inhibit glomerular filtration. So 2 pressures inside the glomerular capillary. पहला inside की बात कर रहा हूं, lumen में. 1 glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure, और ये क्यों है? वो जो plasma flow हो रहा है, lamellar flow हो रहा है, उस flow की वजह से ये physical pressure है. This glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure due to plasma flow promotes glomerular filtration, while glomerular capillary colloidal osmotic pressure, which is due to proteins in the plasma still present in the glomerular capillaries, will inhibit glomerular filtration. Are you with me? Acha, ab once fluid has to pass through the glomerular capillary, where will it enter? So Bowman's capsule or the Bowman's space again has got two pressures. One, Bowman's capsular hydrostatic pressure. जितना Bowman's capsular hydrostatic pressure होगा वो fluid को Bowman's capsule की तरफ push करेगा या glomerular capillaries की तरफ? So therefore more is the Bowman's capsular hydrostatic pressure, less will be the glomerular filtration. Vice versa, more are proteins if present in the Bowman's capsule, more will be glomerular filtration. क्यों? क्योंकि proteins attract करेंगे fluid को glomerular capillaries से अपनी तरफ. So out of these two pressures, can somebody name me the two pressures which will promote glomerular filtration?
Sir, glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure,
Yes.
or sir, Bowman's capsule colloid osmotic pressure.
And can somebody name me two pressures out of these four which will retard the glomerular filtration process?
Sir, glomerular capillary colloidal osmotic pressure or Bowman's capsule hydrostatic pressure.
ना Bowman's capsular colloidal osmotic pressure तो fluid को अपनी तरफ खींचेगा. Bowman's capsular hydrostatic pressure एक और glomerular capillary colloidal osmotic pressure ये रिटार्ड करेंगे. क्यों? Glomerular capillaries में जितना प्रोटीन होगा वो fluid को जाने देगा या अपनी तरफ खींचेगा? तो जब if it will attract the fluid तो filtration promote होगी, retard होगी. So therefore glomerular capillary colloidal osmotic pressure एक, और जो Bowman's capsule में हाइड्रोस्टेटिक प्रेशर है जिसकी डायरेक्शन है ग्लोमेरुलर कैपिलरीज की तरफ, तो डायरेक्शन ग्लोमेरुलर कैपिलरीज की तरफ है तो फ्लूइड को ग्लोमेरुलर कैपिलरीज की तरफ जाने देगा या अपने ल्यूमन में आने देगा? एनीवन बेटा? Can I again explain it?
Yes, sir, please.
Yes,
So
sir.
out of these two pressures, glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure, which is due to fluid movement, will push the fluid from the glomerular capillaries through the filtration barrier into the Bowman's space. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So it promotes the glomerular filtration. And नाम क्या था इस प्रेशर का? Glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure. ये clear हो गया?
Yes, sir.
Second, glomerular capillary plasma colloid osmotic pressure. ये किस चीज की वजह से है प्रेशर? प्रोटीन्स. और प्रोटीन इस वक्त कहाँ मौजूद है? ग्लोमेरुलर कैपिलरी के ल्यूमन में. तो ये प्रोटीन फ्लूइड को ग्लोमेरुलर कैपिलरी की तरफ खींचेंगे या बोमन स्पेस की तरफ पुश करेंगे?
ग्लोमेरुलर कैपिलरी की तरफ
तो
खींचेंगे.
therefore glomerular capillary colloid osmotic pressure will inhibit glomerular filtration. यहां बात क्लियर हो गई?
Yes, sir.
तो ग्लोमेरुलर कैपिलरी में दो प्रेशर में से एक प्रेशर प्रमोट करेगा, एक इनहिबिट करेगा. कौन सा प्रमोट करेगा? हाइड्रोस्टेटिक. इनहिबिट कौन सा करेगा? कोलॉइडल. अब आ जाए बोमन स्पेस में. बोमन स्पेस में भी दो प्रेशर्स हैं. एक है बोमन्स, एक है which is known as Bowman's capsular plasma colloidal osmotic pressure. अब Bowman's स्पेस में प्रोटीन है, ये प्रोटीन फ्लूइड को अपनी तरफ खींचेंगे या ग्लोमेरुलर कैपिलरी की तरफ पुश करेंगे?
अपनी तरफ खींचेंगे. बोमन कैप्सूल.
जब खींचेंगे तो ये प्रेशर ग्लोमेरुलर फिल्ट्रेशन को प्रमोट करेगा. कौन सा? Bowman's capsules colloidal osmotic pressure. आखिरी क्या रह गया? Bowman's capsule hydrostatic pressure. ये हाइड्रोस्टेटिक प्रेशर अब किस वजह से? वो जो ट्यूबुलर फ्लूइड है वो भी तो मूव हो रहा है ना, उसकी मूवमेंट की वजह से Bowman's कैप्सूल के स्पेस में हाइड्रोस्टैटिक प्रेशर। लेकिन ये प्रेशर जो है इसकी डायरेक्शन है ग्लोमेरुलर कैपिलरी की तरफ। तो अगर डायरेक्शन ग्लोमेरुलर कैपिलरी की तरफ है तो ये प्रेशर फ्लूइड को ग्लोमेरुलर कैपिलरी की तरफ धकेलेगा या बोमेन स्पेस की तरफ बुलाएगा?
वुमेन स्पेस की तरफ।
कैपिलरी की तरफ।
जब कैपिलरी की तरफ फेंकेगा तो ये ग्लोमेरुलर फिल्ट्रेशन को प्रमोट करेगा, इनहिबिट करेगा?
इनहिबिट करेगा।
So therefore, again in Bowman's capsule, there are two pressure. अब इसमें opposite है, हाइड्रोस्टैटिक प्रेशर इनहिबिट करेगा, कोलॉइड ऑस्मोटिक प्रेशर प्रमोट करेगा. So summarizing them, glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure and Bowman's capsular colloidal osmotic pressure promotes glomerular filtration. Glomerular capillary colloid osmotic pressure and Bowman's capsular hydrostatic pressure retard or inhibits glomerular filtration. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Till now, if I ask you, let's say 100 ml of blood enters the plasma, enters the afferent arteriole, is passing through the filtration barrier, is under the influence of these four processes. What are the factors जो अब तक मैंने गिनवाए which will promote the filtration of any substance?
Sir, glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure and Bowman's capsular colloidal osmotic pressure.
One, and depending upon the properties of filtration barrier, any particle whose size is less than
10.
8 nanometer.
and which is positively charged, or are small peptides, are only the ones which are undergoing filtration. अच्छा, अब ये जो साइज और चार्ज की बात है ना, इसमें वाटर भी आ जाएगा जो फिल्टर हो जाएगा सारा के सारा, सारे इलेक्ट्रोलाइट्स भी आ जाएंगे, सारे मेटाबोलाइट्स भी आ जाएंगे, सारे ड्रग्स भी आ जाएंगे, मोस्ट ऑफ देम. सिर्फ चार चीजें में आप सारे ऑर्गेनिक सब्सटेंसेस भी आ जाएंगे, which includes carbohydrates, which includes amino acids. चार चीजें मुझे आपको बतानी है इसके एंड पे जो नहीं फिल्टर हो पाएंगी because of the properties of either filtration barrier or these pressures. And these are, please note, and these are very, very important, because now you know the properties of filtration barrier and you know these pressures. And these are: one, proteins, including albumin; two, RBCs and platelets; three, most of the fatty acids; and fourth, any large peptide having a size more than
10.
10
are
nanometers.
not allowed to become filtered normally. And vice versa, anytime there is a defect in filtration barrier, anatomical, these all are going to enter the Bowman's space. And the first of the process which will be affected due to renal failure, if it is involving filtration barrier, have you heard about glomerulonephritis? And most of the glomerulonephritis is either due to autoimmunity or due to bacterial infection. And some of them are drug induced. Any cause which causes glomerulonephritis is going to affect the filtration barrier and these four forces, and are going to cause leakage of dash, 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 dash.
Protein, RBCs, fatty acid and peptides.
Yes. And maybe fatty acids to be leaked into next जगह कहाँ है जहाँ आना है fluid को? Bowman's space.
Bowman's space.
Therefore, these are the factors which are involved in glomerular filtration. I name them again. मैं सिर्फ नाम ले रहा हूं, तस्करा कर दिया है. 1, filtration pores. 2, the proteoglycans. 3, the glycosaminoglycan layers. 4th, these pressures, which are either hydrostatic or colloidal osmotic, whether you talk about glomerular capillary or in the Bowman's capsule. Are you with me? So these are the physiological factors which are going to affect and regulate normally the process of glomerular filtration. Can I proceed?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Now, the characteristics, therefore, any glomerular filtrate which undergoes ultrafiltration, which enters the Bowman space, is protein and fat free and is isoosmolar. The osmolality is same as that of plasma. If I talk about osmolality, I am talking basically about what electrolyte and what organic substance. अभी मैंने कहा था 2 चीजें हैं जो ऑस्मोटिकली एक्टिव होती हैं. One is sodium. What organic substance? Urea. So the plasma concentration of urea and sodium is almost same in plasma or in the tubular fluid which enters the Bowman space. So therefore, the tubular fluid entering the Bowman space is protein and fat free and as isoosmolar to plasma. Are you with me?
Sir,
Are
please
you
repeat
with
this.
me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what are the characteristics of normal glomerular filtration? Water, all ions, glucose, amino acids, urea, creatinine, all crystalloids. They are freely and completely filtered. I again repeat.
जी सर.
जी बेटा.
सर एक क्वेश्चन है. साहब ने पहले कहा था कि जो मेम्ब्रेन है आउटसाइड जो पोरोसाइट्स वगैरह बनाती है प्रोटीओग्लाइकेंस वो नेगेटिवली चार्ज्ड होती है.
जी बेटा.
सर तो ऑल आयंस कैसे गुजर सकते हैं, क्योंकि कुछ आपने कहा था आरबीसीज नेगेटिवली चार्ज होते हैं तो वो रिपेल होकर वापस अंदर ग्लोमेरुलर में चले जाते हैं.
तो मैंने किसकी बात की? आयंस बात कर रहा हूं बेटा.
जी सर तो आयंस अगर नेगेटिवली चार्ज है तो वापस वो भी रिपेल नहीं हो जाएंगे?
कौन से आयंस रिपेल हो जाएंगे?
सर जैसे क्लोराइड आयंस है नेगेटिवली चार्ज.
उनके पार्टिकल का साइज छोटा होता है. Although they are negatively charged, chloride and bicarbonate, उनके जो पार्टिकल साइज है वो 8 नैनोमीटर से बहुत छोटा होता है. तो ऑल्दो के वो नेगेटिवली चार्ज होते हैं लेकिन वो पोर से पास हो जाते हैं साइज की वजह से.
थैंक यू सो मच सर.
वो साइज भी छोटा होता है और वेट भी कम होता है. वेट ऑल्सो अफेक्ट्स द फिल्ट्रेशन. वेट क्यों अफेक्ट करेगा? वेट किस चीज पे अफेक्ट करेगा? हाइड्रोस्टैटिक प्रेशर पे अफेक्ट करेगा वेट. सो ये जो आयंस है बेटे, जितने क्लोराइड बाइकार्बोनेट, इनका साइज भी छोटा है, वेट भी कम है, ऑल्दो नेगेटिवली चार्ज है लेकिन अपने साइज छोटे होने की वजह से दे इजीली freely are filtered. Is it clear?
Yes sir, thank you so much.
Any particle, whether it's positive or negative, having a size greater than 8 nanometer, plasma proteins, other proteins like hemoglobin, myoglobin, red blood cells, fatty acids, and colloids are not filtered. Not a single molecule of them, all of them, jitne list hai ye, are normally allowed to become filtered. However, there is rapid filtration. Filtration सबकी होती है लेकिन रैपिड किनकी होगी? जो पॉजिटिव चार्ज हो, जिनका साइज 4 नैनोमीटर से कम हो या जिनका मॉलिक्यूलर वेट 30,000 से कम हो and they are neutral. I again repeat, if a molecule is either positively charged or has a size less than 4 nanometer or molecular weight less than 30,000 and is neutral, they are filtered very rapidly as compared to other filtered substances. Are you with me? So I have enlisted and give you the rationale why some substances are completely and freely filtered, some substances are not filtered, and some substances are rapidly filtered. Are you with me?
Yes,
बेटे
sir.
बोलोगे तो मैं आगे
Yes,
जाऊं।
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
PhD वाले मुझे जाने नहीं देंगे जब तक मैं अच्छी तरह नहीं समझाऊंगा। चलूं आगे?
आप लोग जवाब दिया करें प्लीज, प्लीज
Yes,
आंसर।
sir.
Yes, sir.
ताकि
Yes,
मुझे
sir.
पता चले कि सिर्फ मैं नहीं जाग रहा हूं, सब जाग रहे हैं।
Yes, sir.
बार बार
Yes.
डॉक्टर साहब पूछ रहे हैं, आर यू विद मी, आर यू विद मी?
Okay, so the glomerular filtration rate in 1 minute, अब ये जरा देखना बेटा, in 1 minute 125 ml of blood per minute और 180 लीटर, 180 लीटर। मैडम हमारे घर में पानी की वो जो बड़ी आती है वो 19 लीटर की होती है। कोई एक आदमी 19 लीटर की बड़ी वाली वो जो आती है पानी की, वो एक आदमी एक दिन में नहीं पी सकता। किडनी कैन, वो 19 लीटर की है, किडनी कैन फिल्टर 180 लीटर्स पर डे। आप छलनी लगा दीजिए, वो फिल्टर करना शुरू कीजिए, एक आदमी की ड्यूटी लगा दीजिए, वो एक दिन में 180 लीटर पानी छलनी नहीं कर पाएगा। The kidneys, the nephrons, this filtration barrier, see the beauty, 180 liters of the filtration occurs per day, 125 ml per minute, so effective. And just remember, if out of this 180 liters per day, if you fail to remove even 50% of nitrogenous waste, what will happen to your body? So rapid and effective is not only the quantity, but the quality of glomerular filtration which is occurring. Just see the consequences of if the filtration goes down from 180 to let's say 75, कहने को वो आधी हो जाएगी, the kidneys start failing, the brain start failing within hours. Take my words. So this quantity is not only the quantity, but beauty, how rapidly it is removing through the filtration, the waste products to be excreted in urine. This is determined by a term which is called as renal plasma clearance, the definition of which is the volume of the plasma of a specific substance from which this substance is cleared through the nephrons by both the kidneys per minute. So let's say there are 100 milligram of ammonia which enters the plasma in the renal artery. If the kidneys are able to filter 100 ml of the ammonia, the renal plasma clearance of ammonia becomes 100. So the amount of the substance which originally enters the renal plasma flow, उसमें से जितना amount filter हो पाया, remove हो गया, is not allowed to enter the woman's space. Whatever is filtered and taken back, अभी वो जा ही नहीं पाया woman's space में, is the renal glomer, is called as renal plasma clearance. The two substances which are classically used are, number one, creatinine, which is an organic substance, a natural substance, a breakdown product of the muscle metabolism derived from creatine. This is used to determine the renal plasma clearance and therefore is an indirect measurement of glomerular filtration rate. The second substance, which is an inorganic substance, is artificially introduced from outside the body, injected into the vein, and the vein takes that substance into the renal artery, and whose amount, if removed, is a measure of the renal plasma clearance, is called as inulin. So natural substance which is used, whose renal plasma clearance is used to determine GFR, is creatine, which is one of the basic clinical renal function tests. And the second one is inulin, which is an artificial substance, inorganic substance introduced from outside the body. तो outside the body की plasma clearance मालूम करना आसान है या जो natural form में मौजूद है?
जो नेचुरल है.
तो भाई क्रेटिनिन क्लियरेंस आसान हो गई नहीं. जितनी प्लाज्मा क्लियरेंस होगी क्रेटिनिन की, उतना ग्लोमेरुलर फिल्ट्रेशन रेट होगा. So if somebody asks you, what is the substance whose filtration rate is reflective of glomerular filtration out of all renal function tests, the answer is renal plasma creatinine levels and renal plasma clearance of creatinine. The formula for renal plasma clearance is urine flow rate ml per minute multiplied by urine concentration of that substance in ml divided by plasma concentration of that substance in ml. So let's suppose urine flow rate is 100, urine concentration is 100. This will give you 100 multiplied by 100. कितना हो गया भाई?
1000.
Okay,
10,000.
divided by plasma concentration. Let's suppose वो भी 100 है. कितना रह गया?
100.
So 100 ml per minute will be the plasma clearance of that X substance. Now, the substances which are freely filtered, not reabsorbed, and a slight quantity is secreted in the proximal convoluted tubule are following two: creatinine, which, as I said, is natural endogenously produced and derived from creatine. Another one, which is called as para-aminohippuric acid, is also endogenous, but it is used not for the determination of glomerular filtration rate, but determination of renal plasma flow. Renal plasma flow कितना था per minute? शुरू में मैंने average value बताई थी.
125 ml.
Yes.
125 ml.
So para-aminohippuric acid for determination of renal plasma flow, and the plasma creatinine levels for determination of glomerular filtration rate. Are you with me? So this is the concept of glomerular filtration rate, the substances used for its determination and their significances. Should I move forward?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, the thickness of the capillary membrane, selective permeability of the capillary membrane, total surface area of the glomerular capillary membrane, which is normally 0.8 meter square. These all, along with the other factors which I have already named and explained, do affect the glomerular filtration rate. Sympathetic stimulation, we know, always occurs during emergency situations. Anytime there are sympathetic stimulation or there are drugs which are sympathetic agonists, what are they going to do? They are going to constrict both afferent and efferent arterioles, increases the blood flow resistance, decreases the glomerular capillary blood flow, and therefore glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure. And if you remember my previous slides, if glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure was more, was it promoting glomerular filtration or retarding?
Promoting.
अगर कम हो जाएगा तो क्या होगा? So
Decrease
therefore,
करेगा.
sympathetic stimulation due to afferent and efferent arteriolar constriction leading to decreased glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure inhibits or retard glomerular filtration rate and vice versa. If you give any drug which is sympathetic antagonist और सिंपैथेटिक रिसेप्टर ब्लॉकर, और कौन से रिसेप्टर्स जो एफरेंट या इफरेंट आर्टेरियोल पे हो, अगर कोई ऐसी ड्रग दो जो उन और वो रिसेप्टर्स अल्फा टाइप होते हैं, अल्फा 2 टाइप होते हैं. सो इफ यू गिव अल्फा 2 रिसेप्टर ब्लॉकर्स, they will do what? They will inhibit the alpha 2 receptors. अगर alpha 2 receptors inhibit हो जाएंगे तो glomerular filtration को क्या होगा? बढ़ जाएगी, तो बढ़ जाएगी. और अगर glomerular filtration बढ़ेगी तो urinary output को क्या होगा? So therefore one of the effect of alpha 2 blockers is increased urinary output, which is one of the mechanism to decrease or
blood pressure.
Volume कम होगा ना बेटा ECF का. Are you with me?
Yes,
Plasma
sir.
volume.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ECF plasma volume is part of the ECF, is part of the total ECF volume. There are local vasodilators and vasoconstrictors which can affect the afferent and efferent dilatation or constriction. The dilators are dopamine, bradykinin, histamine, prostaglandin E2, prostaglandin I2, and nitric oxide. They all are very potent vasodilators. अगर vasodilatation होगी तो glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure को क्या होगा?
कम हो जाएगा.
ज्यादा ब्लड आ रहा है तो हाइड्रोस्टैटिक प्रेशर क्या होगा एफरेंट आर्टेरियोल में और ग्लोमेरुलर कैपिलरीज में?
कम हो जाएगा,
इंक्रीज हो जाएगा.
इंक्रीज अगर होगा ग्लोमेरुलर कैपिलरी हाइड्रोस्टैटिक प्रेशर तो जीएफआर इंक्रीज हो जाएगा.
Increase हो जाएगा.
Vice versa for vasoconstrictors like angiotensin 2, ADH, prostaglandin F2, thromboxane A2, and I hope everybody remembers the role of thromboxane A2 as vasoconstriction in stoppage of bleeding, and leukotriene D4. They all are vasoconstrictors. If secreted, NX on afferent arteriole will constrict the afferent arteriole, decreases the plasma flow, decreases the glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure, and therefore will decrease the glomerular filtration rate. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
yes sir.
Yes, sir.
Systemic arterial pressure, hemorrhage, dehydration, change of temperature to extreme cold or hot, protein-rich diet, changes in the concentration of proteins or glucose. And by the way, glucose do affect the osmolality of the fluids and therefore the reabsorption of water and sodium secondarily, and therefore one of the mechanism for polyuria in diabetes mellitus also, as well as it affects the glomerular filtration rate. These all are the factors which affects the process of glomerular filtration and therefore regulates, have a role in regulation of glomerular filtration rate. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
And this is my last 2 slides. Before that, I want to summarize and repeat some things. जरा ये गौर से सुनिएगा, ये मैं repeat नहीं करूंगा, and this is summary. So the blood enters at a volume of about 1100 ml in the renal artery. Enters the glomerular capillary with a specific glomerular hydrostatic pressure, which promotes glomerular filtration. All of the substances which are less than 8 nanometer, especially less than 4 nanometer, which has got a molecular size of less than 30,000, which are negatively charged, which are which are not negatively charged, which are crystalloids, all electrolytes, all main organic substances, including glucose and amino acids, all ions are freely filtered. While the filtration barrier, the glomerular capillary colloidal osmotic pressure, the Bowman's capsular hydrostatic pressure, they inhibit the glomerular filtration, and no protein, no albumin, no substance with a size of greater than 8 nanometer or greater than 30,000 molecular weight, no colloids are allowed to enter the Bowman space after glomerular filtration. Any vasodilators, which includes the prostaglandins, bradykinin, histamine, promotes the glomerular filtration and glomerular filtration rate. All vasoconstrictors, including angiotensin II, the role of the sympathetic stimulation at the end of the afferent and efferent arteriole, where it causes vasoconstriction, they all causes inhibition of glomerular filtration. So these are some of the physiological, anatomical, and biochemical factors and characteristics which promotes the glomerular filtration or inhibits the glomerular filtration, and thus regulate the normal glomerular filtration rate, which is determined by plasma clearance of either creatinine or inulin. While para-aminohippuric acid is used to measure the renal plasma flow. This is the summary till now. Are you with me?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, please last line, last line repeat कर दें, please, sir.
क्या repeat कर दूं बेटा?
Sir, hippuric,
Para-amine. So creatinine is used, serum creatinine and its value in urine is used for determination of GFR, and the serum para-aminohippuric acid concentration is used to measure renal plasma flow. ठीक है?
जी sir, thank you. Yes.
Now the last one, auto-regulation of glomerular filtration rate, and here comes the role of macula densa. मैं ये बात कर चुका हूं. So decrease is the rate of tubular flow through thick ascending limb and early distal convoluted tubule. Decrease is the salt concentration which reaches at these two places. Macula densa, which is a sensor, detects the decreased concentration of sodium and chloride at the thick ascending limb and distal convoluted tubule. Sends signals to two places. One, afferent arteriole. The signal sends through the macula densa, and macula densa कैसे stimulate हुआ है? उसने detect की है कम concentration of sodium chloride reaching thick ascending limb and early distal convoluted tubule, जहां वो present है in the juxtaglomerular apparatus. Afferent arteriole को signal भेजे, there is increased afferent arteriolar dilatation. Glomerular capillary blood flow, glomerular hydrostatic capillary hydrostatic pressure बढ़ जाएगा, vasodilation की वजह से GFR बढ़ जाएगा. जब GFR बढ़ेगा तो salt और fluid ज्यादा पहुंचेंगे proximal convoluted tubule में और वहां से ज्यादा absorb होने की कोशिश होगी. The second place where the message goes is juxtaglomerular apparatus. Juxtaglomerular cells will secrete renin, or renin angiotensin 2 बनाएगी. Angiotensin 2 will constrict the efferent arteriole. Efferent arteriole की अगर constriction होगी तो resistance बढ़ जाएगी glomerular capillary blood flow की. Glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure बढ़ जाएगा. ये back pressure बढ़ा है और GFR will become back to normal. And again, जब salt ज्यादा पहुंचेगा proximal convoluted tubule में तो ज्यादा reabsorb होगा. So this is auto regulation. Auto regulation का मतलब ये है कि sodium chloride की concentration depending upon diet, depending upon your requirement, हर थोड़ी देर बाद चेंज हो रही होगी बॉडी में. तो क्या हर दफा GFR इतना कम हो जाए या इतना ज्यादा हो जाए कि इतना अफेक्ट आए फिल्ट्रेशन पे कि अल्टीमेटली रीअब्जॉर्प्शन और सिक्रीशन पे भी फर्क है? नो. The nature has provided this auto regulation through. Can you name the sensor?
Macula densa.
Apparatus. And this senses the decreased salt concentration in thick ascending limb and early distal convoluted tubule, sends signals to the juxtaglomerular cells, angiotensin II efferent arteriolar constriction, increased GFR, and to the afferent arteriole for dilatation, and again GFR, both affecting the glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure. Do you understand this auto regulation?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
तो अगर
sir.
मैं आपसे ऑटो रेगुलेशन के 4 वर्ड्स पूछूं और उस पे सारी ऑटो रेगुलेशन एक्सप्लेन हो जाए, कैन यू नेम द वर्ड्स?
Macula densa, afferent arteriole, efferent arteriole.
और juxtaglomerular apparatus.
एंड जीएफआर को अल्टीमेटली अफेक्ट किस प्रेशर के अफेक्ट से आया है? ग्लोमेरुलर कैपिलरी हाइड्रोस्टैटिक प्रेशर। और ये सारी कहानी किसके गिर्द घूमी है? किस चीज की कंसंट्रेशन कम पहुंची है ट्यूबुलर फ्लूइड में?
Sodium
And that
chloride.
ends my lectures of normal functions of kidney and glomerular filtration. I hope I have tried to repeat many things. I have tried to make it simpler, applied, and I hope you have enjoyed. Are there any questions which I can answer, because I still have some minutes?
सर एक चीज वो जो आपने 4 लिखवाई थी, प्रोटीन्स, आरबीसीज, प्लेटलेट्स, फैटी एसिड्स और पेप्टाइड्स, वो चारों चीजें जो हैं वो बोमेन स्पेस में एंटर हो जाएंगी।
I'll go to the, देखो क्या लिखा है ग्लोमेरुलर फिल्ट्रेट का? इट्स प्रोटीन एंड फैट फ्री. Only water, ions, glucose, amino acids, urea, creatinine, and crystalloids are allowed to be freely filtered and enter the Bowman space. Fatty acid कहाँ गया बेटा Bowman space में? Proteins कहाँ गए? नहीं गए ना Bowman space में. Filter नहीं हो पाए.
ओके सर.
Fatty acids क्यों नहीं हो पाएंगे? Any guess?
Because of large molecule.
Size and
Charge भी non-polar.
Because of polar positively charged and large molecule.
सोते फैट की ना, तो उनका वेट फैटी एसिड्स का कितने से ज्यादा होगा? 30,000 से मॉलिक्यूलर वेट ज्यादा होगा. So its size and weight both is charge, size and weight, all which affects glomerular filtration process. Any other question बेटे?
सर ये रीनल प्लाज्मा क्लियरेंस ऑफ क्रेटिनिन थोड़ा सा दोबारा एक्सप्लेन कर दें.
Okay, so creatinine is a substance which is derived from the muscle metabolism. Muscle metabolism forms creatine. Creatine gets converted into creatinine. The creatinine enters from the muscle into the plasma. The plasma is brought through the renal artery to the kidney. If we know the blood concentration of the creatinine at a time, the urine concentration of the creatinine at a time, and the urine flow rate, we can determine the renal plasma clearance of creatinine, which is a measure of
GFR
filtration rate. Why? Because creatinine is a substance which is allowed to be filtered, but is not reabsorbed, and then becomes the part of the urine. And therefore, because of these two characteristics, is used to determine the glomerular filtration rate.
Thank you, sir.
Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions?
सर एंजियोटेंसिन 2 का रोल एक्सप्लेन कर दें सर. डायबिटिक नेफ्रोपैथी के अंदर सर जो प्रोटीनूरिया होता है उसके अंदर एंजियोटेंसिन 2 को जो एस इनहिबिटर हम देते हैं स्टार्ट के अंदर प्रोटीनूरिया के अंदर, लेकिन जब प्रोटीनूरिया वर्स कर देता है सीकेडी 4 हो जाता है या एंड स्टेज रीनल डिजीज, उसके अंदर हम एंजियोटेंसिन इनहिबिटर बंद कर देते होते हैं, लेकिन स्टार्ट के अंदर हम उसको प्रेफरेबल करते हैं कि प्रोटीनूरिया को रिड्यूस करें. सर एक थोड़ा ये एक्सप्लेन कर दीजिएगा कि स्टार्ट में क्यों देते हैं और बाद में हम क्यों कर देते हैं. और सर इसके ही करस्पॉन्डिंग सर जो डायबिटिक नेफ्रोपैथी है उसके अंदर भी हम प्रोटीनूरिया को रिड्यूस करने के लिए पेशेंट को ग्लोमेरुलर हाइपरटेंशन से बचाने के लिए हम उसको एंजियोटेंसिन रिसेप्टर एंटागोनिस्ट देते हैं, एआरबीज देते हैं, कि पेशेंट को डायबिटिक नेफ्रोपैथी ना हो ग्लोमेरुलर हाइपरटेंशन से बचाने के लिए. लेकिन सर जब वो सीकेडी 4 और ईएसआरडी में चले जाता है तो उस वक्त हम उसको बंद कर देते हैं. तो इसकी सर क्या रीजन है, कैसे इसकी प्रेफरेंस करनी?
आप यकीन करें, आपने जो कुछ बोला ना उसमें से मुझे 2 चीजें ही पिक कर पाए हूं, इतनी स्पीड में बोले हैं आप अगर मुझे मुख्तसरन आहिस्ता आहिस्ता बताएं तो मैं शायद जवाब दे पाऊं। बेटे आपकी स्पीड बोलने की
सर मैं ट्राई करता हूँ दोबारा बताने की सर।
प्लीज
एक्चुअली मैं ये पूछ
मेरे पास सिर्फ 8 मिनट हैं।
यस सर मैं एक्चुअली ये
के
पूछ
बाद
रहा
जहाज
हूँ।
बाहर खड़ा है। हाँ बोलो।
सर मैं एक्चुअली ये पूछ रहा हूँ कि ये जो प्रोटीन यूरिया सर, प्रोटीन यूरिया वैसे किडनी जो है वो प्रोटीन को नहीं करती क्योंकि उसकी फिल्टर नहीं होती, किडनी के अंदर प्रोटीन की फिल्ट्रेशन नहीं होती। तो सर जब प्रोटीन यूरिया पेशेंट को होना स्टार्ट हो जाता है, ठीक है, सीकेडी के अंदर, तो सर उसके अंदर पहले हम प्रोटीन यूरिया को प्रिवेंट करने के लिए पेशेंट को ARBs देते हैं या एस देते हैं, इनहिबिटर्स देते हैं उसको। लेकिन सर जब प्रोटीन यूरिया वर्स कर देता है, जब सीकेडी 4 पे चले जाता है या ESRT के अंदर।
बेटा ये आपका कंसेप्ट गलत है। अगर मुझे रीनल फेलियर में कॉज कोई भी हो, एक्यूट हो क्रॉनिक हो, रीनल फेलियर में अगर मेरा मकसद, जरा गौर से सुनिएगा, प्रोटीन को ग्लोमेरुलर फिल्ट्रेट होने से बचाना है, उसको लीक होने से बचाना है, तो उसमें ड्रग इफेक्टिव नहीं होती। द ओनली ट्रीटमेंट इज हीमोडायलाइजर। हीमोडायलाइजर
सर आपकी वीडियो स्टक हुई हुई है।
Sir, we can't hear you.
Muted पर है mic.
सर आपकी वीडियो स्टक है सर।
से तो आप थे ही नहीं।
पिछले 8-9 मिनट से कोई नई चीज कही भी नहीं।
सर उसी क्वेश्चन का आंसर कंप्लीट कर दें
सर सीपीएसपी बिल्कुल ब्लैंक, ड्रग से प्रिवेंट नहीं किया जा सकता। प्रोटीन को किस चीज ने नॉर्मली फिजियोलॉजिकली नॉर्मल हाथ में लीक होने से प्रिवेंट किया है? फिल्ट्रेशन बैरियर ने, विच वाज अ केमिकल थिंग। क्या होता है कि जैसे रीनल फेलियर होता है और अब मुझे ये चाहिए कि मैं प्रोटीन ना जाए, तो एंजियोटेंसिन 2 की कहानी नहीं करूंगा, मैं एसी इनहिबिटर की नहीं करूंगी। I'll take the patient to dialysis and hemodialysis. जो hemodialysis membrane होती है, which is an artificial membrane, has characteristics same as of the anatomical filtration barrier. और अब जब प्लाज्मा गुजरेगा तो नेचुरल फिल्ट्रेशन बैरियर वाली प्रॉपर्टी से गुजरेगा, तो वो प्रोटीन फिल्टर नहीं हो पाएगा और वो लीक नहीं हो पाएगा। तो कोई ड्रग फिल्ट्रेशन की एबनॉर्मल होने से और उसको लीक होने से प्रिवेंट नहीं करती ये हीमोडायलिसिंग मेम्ब्रेन। तो उनका एक तो कंसेप्ट वो सही होना चाहिए जिन्होंने साथी ने वो क्वेश्चन किया था। इज इट क्लियर बेटे?
यस
Yes,
सर।
sir.
सर एक
Thank
और
you.
क्वेश्चन है कि एक एवरेज 70 kg बंदे में जो है 24 आवर्स में कितना यूरिन प्रोड्यूस होगा?
So if he is taking let's say 6 to 8 glass of water, ये usual है। Ideally anyone who is working in atmosphere which has got either too hot or too cold and moisture do it, तो उसको water intake बढ़ानी होती है। अगर आप एसी में भी बैठे तभी वाटर इनटेक बढ़ानी है, 6 ग्लास काफी नहीं है। या अगर आप धूप में 6 घंटे काम करें तब भी 6 ग्लास काफी नहीं है। दोनों दफा में एक्सट्रीम टेम्परेचर कोल्ड हो, मैंने वो शो की थी एक स्लाइड। सो अगर फर्ज कर कोई 6 से 8 ग्लास पानी पी रहे इन एवरीथिंग गोज राइट, उसका यूरिनरी आउटपुट है वो समवेयर बिटवीन 800 ml टू 1400 ml होना चाहिए।
लेकिन कोल्ड एरिया में या एसी में हम बैठे हुए तो हमें प्यास ही नहीं लगती।
वो इसलिए नहीं लगती आप
सर स्टारवेशन में
because of the thirst center in the hypothalamus is inhibited by low temperatures. I hope we know. हमारे ब्रेन में मैडम एक किस्सा है हाइपोथैलेमस, उसमें एक सेंटर है फिजियोलॉजिकल जो जैसे ही एसी में बैठते हैं वो इनहिबिट होना शुरू हो जाता है। डायबिटीज में थर्स्ट क्यों ज्यादा होती है? वो इसलिए ज्यादा होती है कि जैसे ही डायबिटीज होती है तो हमारी जो प्लाज्मा ऑस्मोलैलिटी है वो फर्क हो जाती है। जैसे ही प्लाज्मा ऑस्मोलैलिटी फर्क होती है तो जो ब्लड एबनॉर्मल होके हाइपर ऑस्मोलर होके ब्रेन में पहुंचता है वो थर्स्ट सेंटर को स्टिमुलेट कर देता है, तो प्यास ज्यादा लगना शुरू हो जाती है। आई होप वी नो डायबिटीज हैज गॉट पॉलीयूरिया, पॉलीडिप्सिया एंड पॉलीफेजिया। एनी अदर क्वेश्चन बिफोर बेटे? थैंक यू।
क्वेश्चन है सर।
जी
सर आपने क्रिएटिनिन का बताया था कि हमें क्लियरेंस अगर मालूम करनी है तो क्रिएटिनिन नेचुरल भी है, एंडोजिनस भी है, लेकिन बीसीक्यू आता है सीपीएचडी की तरफ से कि बेस्ट कौन सा है?
मैंने ये नहीं कहा, मैंने आपको कहा क्रिएटिनिन जो है वो एंडोजिनस होती है, इन्यूलिन एक्सोजिनस होती है।
जी सर, तो बेस्ट कौन सा है? बीसीक्यूज में बाज़ औक़ात पूछा जाता है।
बेटा बेस्ट वो है जो नेचर ने प्रोड्यूस किया। नेचर ने क्या?
थैंक यू सर। क्रिएटिनिन।
I do remember one of my professor who is still working, a very famous pediatrician, Professor Ghaffar Billu. He says, more natural you are, more healthy you are. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you, everybody. We'll meet tomorrow, inshallah, at 9 a.m. sharp. Okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
Allah Hafiz.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, doctor. Okay. Allah Hafiz.